let's move on to Anthem, which, ironically enough, this is
Look at his little face.
what
Derrick's little face is glowing.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that where you want to start?
yeah, we'll just dive into it because, of course, as everybody's seen and heard, there's been good things said about it, bad things said about it, more bad things said about it, and then just more piled on top of there. Because it's like, I'm gonna say, I completely enjoyed it and I played it. A lot of people that are playing it when it works enjoy it, but it does have its problems. It is also a live service game, so one of the notes like I was making earlier is how fast they're working on stuff and trying to get fixes out and listening to what the community wants and then implementing the best they can. Because, we can ask for all these things, but in the long run, we don't know how their system's designed to handle what we want it to do versus what they're able to make it do for us. So I completed it today. I've been playing pretty much nonstop since Friday morning, 12 when it launched live. Hit level 30, cleared out the story. I've heard some people have cleared out story around level 16 or so because they've been rushed through by somebody. I did a lot of going back and helping people because at different times, different people would be on. So I've gone through like the first half of the story about 5 or 6 times so far. And for me, that's been fun because I always pick up something new, or you're not always going through the same exact way for the missions because there's like slight deviations and paths you can go. And then as you like unlock more story quests, like more collectibles become available to find, new ways to find them because of something you've learned in a mission. So it's been an interesting ride through. As far as story goes, I'd put it on par that was about a little shorter to like a mid-range story. I'd put it kind of close to Destiny 2's campaign in length. There's a lot of interactions that open up within the Fort Tarsis area. Not so much when you're like out in the open world, but when you're back in the fort, they have different people you can talk to at different times. You can talk to them, and they have a lot of like variations of what they say. I don't think I've really ran into the same conversation twice. And
so my experience with it, I played a little bit of it, the final release last night. Didn't get too far into it, but it turns out that beginning part of it was the alpha they had earlier in the year. So I played that up until you first get to the Fort Tarsis.
Right.
So like I had known about like the opening to that game basically, where your squad gets wiped out, and then it's like 3 years later or something like that, and you're trying to rebuild the reputation of the freelancers, as it were. And for me, and of course I played the open beta with you and a little bit myself as well. So that was like, from what I understand, that open beta was kind of pretty far into the game.
They had said that it was about midway through. It's closer to late, like that set of missions.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
To the end of the game than you would think.
Yeah. So me coming into it, I played a lot of Destiny. I played Destiny from the beginning, and obviously the comparisons to Destiny are gonna happen. And right off the bat, what I was hoping from Anthem was, what BioWare brings to games, which is like a good story. Mass Effect and Dragon Age and all that stuff. Some of the best stories in video games. Mass Effect is, the world, the universe building and characters and stuff like that. That's like, that shit's on par with, Star Wars and Star Trek in terms of like sci-fi story and stuff like that. And at least from the alpha and the beta, I felt like a lot of the characters, especially when you were walking around, like there wasn't much going on in the fort. Like there are people. There are
Yeah,
people.
that's
They're
I could
like there's just people there. Like they look like they're going about their lives, but they're not walking around. They're not moving. They're kind of like just standing still.
they're more like
And
stationary and
yeah, like it reminded me of Borderlands 2, where you'd walk around the city areas and everybody would just be like, the guy would always be leaning up against the building and he'd always be there. Um,
yeah.
he
Um,
and you know, then you'd go up to a character in Anthem. You'd go up to a character that you're supposed to talk to, and you'd activate the dialogue, and then it would be kind of like this weird stage play where they're acting directly to you, like they're very much in your face with all of the way that they're acting and stuff like that, because the fort area is first person and the combat is third person, which is a juxtaposition there as well, where you're walking around the non-combat area in first person, and then when you're fighting, you're in third person. So they're like right up in your face and like talking directly to you and stuff like that, which I found a little strange. What's your take on the way that they tell like that, the way that they do that? How did you, after playing it for as much as you did?
it wasn't like at first it wasn't like what I was expecting out of it to have it like just like that. Like I thought there was going to be more people like moving around, especially from early videos that they showed like coming into the fort area, and there was like people walking around and stuff like that. In the game, you don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the upside, the interactions with the characters and talking to them have been very colorful. Like some like I've come to a point where I really like this character and I really hate this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some like you said, a lot of them are stationary. Like in games like Borderlands, you'll find the same people in the same spots. Every now and then they'll kind of move around, or like one character I talked to and she had a quest, and then we went over to her apartment, which opened up kind of another area of a fort that I wasn't able to get to yet. So that was kind of cool and refreshing. But the fort itself felt kind of small and confined. It wasn't as big as I imagined it would have been, since they said a lot of like storytelling and stuff would be taking place here. That was the big single player aspect of the game.
Yeah, you'd think that would be like the big city, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, in the Citadel in Mass Effect, or you know, some of the bigger cities in Dragon Age. And like the entirety of Dragon Age 2 took place in a city, right?
Yeah.
I never played that one, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, most of it was, I think there was a couple like small like side dungeon areas you could get to, but the most of it was like this huge city.
Right.
So it was kind of a little different approach coming from what you would expect from that studio.
Yeah.
Did it hinder the experience at all? A little bit, but there's still stuff that's happening there. I was like, these conversations were great. Where like, I can't wait till I talk to this character again to see what they say, because you know there would be some goofy stuff, there would be some serious conversations. I think it was just enough. It'll be interesting to see how they can build on it.
Yeah, do you think the story overall was satisfying? Like, without obviously spoiling too much of it, but do you think it told a good story?
I think it did. I think it gave a good grounds to what could be an overarching, like the entire arc is going to be a very good story. Yet not all of it has been told yet. This was kind of like, if you think of the book, this kind of felt like this is chapter 1 of it.
Okay.
And then now it ended, so we're going to see where they're going to bring it into the next spot of what happens.
Okay. And you think there's enough to keep that interesting?
Yeah. Without spoiling anything, I'm gonna say yeah, because you complete the game, it rolls credits, you come back in. After I had that crash,
Yeah. Yeah,
When
that's
they're
pretty
like,
good.
"We've got something to show you," my game crashed on me, which
Yeah.
was the first crash I've had. On top of everybody's like hundreds of crashes.
Yeah.
Um,
There's some other
what they,
stories out there.
yeah, what they showed after that, I was just like, no, now I have to wait.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to wait too long. There's another thing coming out in March, right?
Yeah, I have the roadmap up here for March. This one doesn't have the dates on it, but they do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 big chunks of stuff that they want to add in. And from my understanding, is each month they're going to add in this stuff. And then I believe by the end of April, beginning of May, the game's going to get it. The first Cataclysm's going to happen, which will be a big world-changing event.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see how well they lead up to that to keep everybody's interest,
Mm-hmm.
and then how well that event's actually pulled off, because they tried something like that in the demos for it, and no one was really sure what was going on, if it was supposed to be this cataclysm or if it was just supposed to be this Shaper Storm.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt very lackluster there. So there are parts of it that need improving. Then there's parts of it that like were good. Like when you're in there playing and you're in your Javelin, it's been a blast.
Yeah,
But
so
then, like you
let's
say,
talk a
the
little bit
story's
about
kinda
that.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay, like what you're doing moment to moment when you're actually in the Javelin and you're flying around.
Okay, so when you're in there, I'm playing the Colossus, so I'm kind of a heavy guy, so I don't get to fly as far as the lighter ones do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of constantly like looking for water, or looking for a waterfall. Because if you go through a waterfall, you get like 20 or 30 seconds or so where you can just fly, and it's not affecting your overheating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it just kind of depends like which class you have as far as like how far you can fly. Everybody can fly the same height because it kind of cuts you off. And when you're down in combat, you've got a variety of like 5 or 6 different skills that you can like mix and match, and everything's picked up by a drop. So like you can't just say, okay, I want a skill point in this. I'm gonna have this here, and I'm gonna have this here, and then switch it. You actually have to have a drop of that skill to equip it,
Okay.
to use it. So like you can hold 2 guns, and then you also have your 2 skills, which are used for chaining and comboing, which would be kind of like your elemental damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't think any weapon has elemental damage on it.
Okay.
They use what it's called as blast damage, and that's like how hard it hits, and then if it does anything else to help set off stuff. Because some guns you can hit, like if somebody's frozen and you hit it hard enough, it might cause it to shatter.
Okay. Um, what do you think about how like the limitations on flying and how quickly you overheat and stuff like that? Do you think that that kind of is a obviously it's like a balance thing, but do you think it's a little bit too restrictive? Because I've heard people complaining about that the flying is the thing that they
Um,
showed off and it's fun, but I can't stay up for too long before I have to um, land and cool off.
Right. I think what they should have done with it is, since free play and your missions are kind of broken apart from each other, they're separate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Within missions, I'd say it's fine how it is, because then like if you're just up flying away, you could constantly like hit and then like run away real fast, and then come back and then run away real fast,
Yeah.
and then come back to fly out of danger or harm. So I think if they left like a nonstop flying, it would kind of break the game a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if maybe they had an element in free play where they extended the amount of time you could fly, maybe adjustments with that would make it a little bit better.
Right, because the stakes aren't as high there, right?
Yeah, because the only time it felt really tedious is when you're actually like, when you hop off, if you're like launching from a strider or you're launching from a fort. Um, when you have to fly to a mission that's like starts really far away, because some of them do,
Right.
some of them you fly for like 5 minutes or so. Then it gets tedious because you got to stop, land, then you might
Yeah.
have to attack some things, get up, and then go again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Where you're just trying to get to the mission start.
yeah,
Um, what do you think of? Well, so one of the things that bothered me in the beta was when uh one person in your squad gets to the objective or something, it automatically, well, it doesn't just automatically warp you, but it actually throws up a loading screen and then warps you to where they are. Um, and this is something that I'm not sure about the Division, but I know it happens in Destiny when somebody gets to a certain point. If they go far ahead, it warps you, but the difference is that it doesn't load. Like it doesn't throw up a loading screen. It just warps you there, and you're there immediately, which can be annoying if you're out, trying to do something else. But it definitely didn't strike me as jarring as it is when I started playing Anthem. When I started playing the beta, I think it was the load screen. I think it's like the whole full screen load screen that comes up.
Yeah.
What does that, like? Do you get used to that, or does that stay kind of frustrating throughout?
They made it a little better so you have a little bit more time to catch up. I guess what it is for the mission is they kind of want you staying together and not just wandering off. They kind of
Mm-hmm.
want you focused on that mission.
Yeah.
But it can be tedious because sometimes it'll load real fast and within like a blink you'll be up there where you need to be. Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it'll be like you're loading into a fresh game. So it'll be like the first time you're loading and you've got that long load time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been very, I couldn't give like 100% like this is my standpoint on it. It's not good and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily bad for where they're using it.
Okay. I think, yeah, and it was kind of disorienting too. Like all of a sudden you'd be in this completely different place and you'd be like, what's
Yeah, especially if you're playing with randoms, know that what I've noticed so far from just playing with randoms is know that their goal is to get to that mission and get it done.
Yeah.
They're not
They're
looking
not
to
there to
farm
screw
anything on the
around.
way. They're not to look for chests or anything on the way. They're to do that. So what we'll do is like when I'm playing with a group, we'll just put it on private so that we don't pick up a fourth person.
Okay.
And then as long as we're together within, and they expanded the range a little bit more, so it's actually um, not as bad when you're playing with a group where you can communicate. Where we're gonna like, okay, I'm gonna look here, I'm gonna check here, we're gonna check here, and then we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're playing with somebody that you can't communicate with, they're just going to be hauling ass to the mission, and yeah, then it's going to pull you forward, and it could get tedious depending how close the blocks are. Because some of the missions you get to the point and then like turn and have to go like this way a little bit, and it would warp you to this point. By the time you got there, they'd be at that next one, so it would warp you again. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a double-edged sword for how they want to use it.
Um, how are the weapons? Do the weapons feel like, they're worth getting? Or do they feel samey
Um,
throughout?
At first, I was really mixed between using weapons and then using like your skills because like the setup I have on my skill recharges are really fast and that's what's setting off the combos and doing your damage.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started getting more into it and playing and like tinkering with different weapons because trying to up your gear score so you can get to that next tier, I started playing around with more of the weapons and then I started liking more because I figured out how to exactly use them and then use my skills. Is like your guns you want to use to take down the enemy shield and then use your skills because some enemies aren't their shields aren't affected by elemental damage at all, and that's
Mm-hmm.
mainly what your skills are all elemental. So once you learn how to use the two together, the gunplay becomes fun.
Okay.
I hated grenade launchers when I started with them. When I got my first couple, I was like, wow, this is dumb. We had one that bounced, and it was just really hard to use at first. And then I'd gotten one that was a sticky grenade that shot out pretty much, and that was a lot of fun. But then the first masterwork item I got was a grenade launcher, but it bounced the bullets. But I was like, okay, I want to use this because it's a level 40 point versus the level 30 stuff I was just getting.
Mm-hmm.
So once I actually learned how to use it, it became a lot of fun to use, and I learned when to use it, where to aim it, and that kind of thing. So kind of like with the gunplay, it kind of depends on like how much are you going to enjoy tinkering like that and finding out what you like and don't really like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to try out an assault rifle. Okay, I don't like it. I'm going to try out a sniper. Okay, I don't like that. Like my brother loves snipers. He tried one out, didn't like it at all.
So then he had to load back to Fort Tarsis and swap out his loadout and then load back into the mission.
He had an assault rifle with him, so like you kind of rely on your weapons a lot less. And it also depends on your class too, because he was playing a storm, so he was kind of just like freezing everything for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then me and my friend's Colossus are built the same way with a flamethrower and a shock coil. So we're just down there comboing like there's no tomorrow off of everything.
Okay.
Is combat easy to follow? Because from the outside looking in, I haven't played it. I probably won't play it.
Yeah.
You've just said you've got elemental stuff and you've got weaponry.
Yeah.
Now, I watched some footage. I looked quite a bit of footage where everything's kicking off at once. And there's like electricity and there's powers and there's pulses and there's explosions. And it looks really hard to follow. Is it easy to follow the combat? It seems very cluttered visually when all of the physics and the...
Especially when you're trying to do something like set up a combo or something like that.
Yeah, it can get hard to follow at times, because one of the things I wish they would adjust is your field of view. Especially for the Colossus, because he takes up like a decent amount of the screen. So if we could be further back from it, I think it would make following a little bit easier, because there's some times where there's so much stuff going off, and with a Colossus, I'm kind of up there because I also have a shield. So I've got all these explosions going on. Some of the times I can't see what I'm shooting at, and if I'm waiting on a recharge, and I'm just like, okay, what's going on? So sometimes you can get lost, because some of the battles you get, like, a lot of enemies are coming in, and it'll be interesting to see on the higher difficulties how well that works together versus being able to talk about what's going on. Because, I'll call, like, you'll start learning how enemies behave, so you can call out things for the Colossus. I can be like, all right, throw up your shield, move back some. Okay, I can take my shield and bash one, and then switch to use my flamethrower. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's a mix, and it kind of depends like who you're playing with and how well you know the play styles of what's going on.
It seems like something that maybe they should pull back a bit on with everything at once. Because it eventually becomes a detriment because you can't see what you're shooting.
Yeah. If we had a little bit more control over the field of view, I think that would help a lot in the enjoyment of combat. Like, combat's still fun. It's just there's some times where you're just so close in and there's so much going off at once.
Nate, you played on PC some. Is there a setting in there where you can make the field of view wider?
I do not believe there was. I think both systems pretty much had the same settings.
Okay. All right. I have it on PC. Came with my fancy new graphics card, so I'm gonna be playing it a little bit on there. And I'll check that out. It looks great. It's a great looking game, that's for sure. That Frostbite engine, it does one good thing, and that's make things look pretty. And I really can't say that it does anything else very well, but including game development. I mean, have you noticed that since EA's like kind of forced Frostbite on everybody, that their games haven't been that great, especially BioWare's.
Yeah, you can notice too with like some of the characters, like how you're talking about how it was a very like the characters are in your face.
Yeah.
Some of that bothered me too, because they'd just be like talking like really weird. Like the one girl, like you're talking to her and she's going like this with her hand while talking to you. And it was just really weird.
Yeah, it was like an overacted like stage play. Is the best thing that I can describe the acting that I've seen so far. Is like everyone's trying to overact. It's like Johnny Depp is playing every character, and he's just like flailing around, jumping on things, and like getting right up in your face and all this stuff. and it's just like it's such a strange thing. It reminds me of like
that's
those old.
I still haven't gotten used to that either in it, and it sucks too because, like I said, the actual conversations that you're having with the people are a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like the dialogue seems good and the voice acting seems good, and like the stories they're telling are at least somewhat interesting, but I'm just constantly distracted by like their movement and just the weirdness of the way that it's being presented. It's like those old FMV games that it was like a first person, like you were an actual character in the game and everybody was talking to you and they were trying to immerse you in it, and like pretending like they're pulling your arm along or something like that, and that's the feeling I got from it. Or like whenever a real movie tries to do first person and it never quite feels right, it's just strange. Like I've never really seen anything like that before, because like when you have a conversation in Skyrim or Fallout, it just goes into that first person camera and it's just their face and you talk back and forth. I don't know, it's or even like Mass Effect and stuff like that, it would be like a cinematic camera that it would go into, where it would go between your two characters, and then when you're out of it went back to the third person behind the back. I don't know. I'm still gonna, like I said, I'm still gonna play more of it. So one of the other things that sorry, go ahead, Lee.
Talking about the engine, have they fixed the popping yet? The outrageous popping. I understand rocks and stuff like that and bushes popping in. I watched a bit of footage and someone was in the hub and the entire hub popped in. Is it that bad?
No. I haven't.
Like literally, you could just see the outside environment, and the entire hub walls popped in, and it's like
that sounds like a glitch.
Yeah, I haven't had something that bad happen. There was one mission where it's happened to me both times I've been in the mission, but like half the level was just like if you put a red lens over your eye, everything was just red.
Jesus Christ!
And then there's a loading screen where they didn't quite make the loading screen wide enough so you can see the game loading behind the scenes.
Oh, nice.
So like if you look at the two sides, you can see the game loading. So what you're going to load into is there, but there's just like a sliver on each side.
Yeah,
I was like, has anybody else noticed that? Because I sure as hell see it.
Yeah, well, when I'm making a scene in OBS and I'm trying to get it just over the edge, but I miss it by like 2 pixels, and then it's the only thing you see.
Yeah, I do that. Like I put on my overlay, and I kind of had like that thin box overlay, and I didn't move it. But when I went to stream, I saw it, and I was like, "Hold on, guys." Boop. Yeah, it was just like that.
That's funny. So one of the other things that I heard is the lack of kind of like explanation of how the combo system works in the game.
I'd say that I don't fully understand it, and what's actually like when they talked about it, I thought everything was supposed to have a symbol, like this move was your primer and this move was a detonator. When they initially talked about it like that, like it was like, whoa, this is going to be great. You're going to have this move, you're going to know this move sets up like this, and then you're going to know this move sets up like that. So when you're playing with your team, you're going to be like, all right, guys, prime, my detonator's ready, like stuff like that. But it doesn't happen. You just kind of use moves, and I've kind of learned
and
that
hope they come together.
That my shot coil detonates off my fire move for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just not clear on like what's priming for what and what you should use to detonate it and stuff like that.
Right. It's kind of filling it out and seeing what's comboing, and then like I said, I kind of just like found out that this flamethrower with shot coil works really, really good.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe some a little bit more explanation on that down the line, like making it clear on, use this and combo it with this and you'll get the best results.
Yeah,
Alright.
or they could also have made it too where like one because you have your two sets of moves and they're both clearly separate sets. That okay, this set of moves are your primers, this set are your detonators. That might have made it a little bit better too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just kind of making it like it's either one or the other kind of thing.
Yeah, because like we'll use the ranger for example too. Is like he has two moves that are basically both grenades he shoots out,
Mm-hmm.
but like okay, so are they going to be detonators? Are they going to be doing something? So it's just kind of it's a bit weird system that could use some fine tuning, but
Okay.
it's not bad, but it's not great.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add, Lee or Derrick?
I don't think, like I said. Oh, Lee.
Oh no. Oh, do you think, seeing it was out of the oven too early as a base game, or do you think it's kind of fine as it is? Because it does seem like there's a lot of things that should be there, like explanations, like say of certain systems and stuff, and then the technical sides.
Yeah, do you
Feels
think it
like
came
it-
in
It's
too
been rushed out,
early?
even though it's been delayed.
I don't think
Maybe.
it's been too rushed. I just think maybe with how much they've been talking about and how much they've tried to be transparent with it, that not everything actually happened. Like I was saying, like the little symbols for priming and detonator, they're not. I don't really notice them or know if they're even there. But that was something they've talked about. If that kind of makes sense.
They took out a pilot skill tree, didn't they?
Oh,
Yeah, but that is going to be coming back because what happened was they had it, and the system didn't work as well as they thought, and as
Okay.
well as they wanted it to. So they were working on fine tuning that system, and I believe by May that system will be implemented.
Okay.
oh.
So then what happens for your level 50 character or whatever the level cap is? Do you all of a sudden get access to that, or is that only something that helps out if you're starting out from like a new character?
I'm not sure because they really haven't talked too much about it.
Okay.
It was one of the things that players were asking for and that they were going to do before. And now they're just trying to find out how to implement it right and make it something that's going to be worthwhile. Could it
Okay.
help in the long run? I think for the longevity of the game, introducing a pilot skill system at endgame might be more beneficial than having it there all along.
Well, it sounds like that's where it was going to end up being anyway. Apparently there's some dialogue in the game that actually alludes to the fact that there used to be a skill tree in it and that they don't have it in there anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
But woven into the narrative.
I think it's just like a menu thing that like
Yeah.
you're supposed to get some sort of reward at the end of completing something. I don't know the details about it. I heard somebody else talking about it, and what you end up getting is just some like upgrade materials or something like that. But the dialogue box that pops up suggests that there's a pilot like upgrade system that you just unlocked, but you didn't actually do that. Like it didn't actually happen. So it looks like they had that in, and then they forgot to take the dialogue out that alluded to it.
Right.
And then I looked into it more, and it turns out that they had a system like that in there, but then they decided to take it out before launch. Yeah, so I guess we'll see if that comes back and if it's something that adds a little bit to the end game or how they implement it.
Right. It'll be interesting to see what they do with something like that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens after The Division comes out next month, because that's definitely a competition for this type of game.
Yeah, that's going to be a very big.
Destiny is kind of on a downslope in terms of content coming out, so that they don't have to worry about that one for too long. But The Division 2 is coming out mid March, so I guess we'll see where allegiances lie.
Yeah, we'll see, because I've got that one pre-ordered already. Actually,
Yeah, that's the one I'm excited for.
is it this weekend? Yeah, this weekend is the open beta for Division 2.
Yep.
So if you didn't get to check out that closed beta, that That'll be there.
Yeah, that's
It looks surprisingly promising. I don't play live services games, but I'm interested in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The first one didn't. I fell off of that one pretty quick. I just didn't think it felt that great, and the story wasn't that great. And I don't think the story is going to be very good in this one either. But it feels like just that closed beta I played felt way better than that original game. And the upgrades and stuff that looks like you can unlock look pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the fact that they've kind of broken, like with that upgrade system in the beta that we played, that they kind of broken apart the game some.
Mm-hmm.
And because now you earn like your combos that we were doing just in the regular game, you now have to unlock being able to do those. So I guess it adds this little new depth that the first one didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like a reskin of the first one. I fell off the first one real quick because it was a mess, especially with adding in new equipment, then adding in sets of equipment, and then the constant nerf between PvP and PvE just kept ruining the game for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of glad for Anthem being just straight PvE and then expanding on there.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Well, I'm sure we'll be back next month talking about The Division in the same way we're talking right now about Anthem.
the Division disappointed us.
'Tis the season. Yeah, all right. So that's going to wrap up our Anthem talk.